This is part 2 of driving on snow and ice. In this video, I'm going to talk about tyre grip, predictable grip, how to get yourself unstuck, and how to deal with hills. If you're interested in part 1, which is all about preparing yourself and the car before you drive on snow and ice, there should be a link to it in the top right hand corner of your screen. Oh, and before I forget, this video is in affiliation with Collingwood Insurance, but I'll talk about them later. And before I get driving, I want to talk about tyre grip. Something you need to know about a summer tyre in summer conditions is that when you're braking as hard as you can, you're going to be slowing down by up to around about 22 miles an hour per second. That's 1 G of force. That is ideal conditions for a road car. In the wet, however, your grip, worst case scenario, is going to halve. So every second you're only going to slow down by 11 miles an hour. But on the ice, your grip is going to divide by around about 10. So you're only going to be able to slow down by about 2.2 miles an hour per second. That's a full 10 seconds to stop from just 22 miles an hour. But driving on ice doesn't only affect your braking ability, it affects your cornering ability by about the same degree. If you were to brake as hard as you can on ice, you're not going to feel it very much in your body. The amount you're slowing down is not going to generate enough force for you to notice it or for it to push you forward in your seat. And same for cornering. You're not going to be able to corner hard enough to lean yourself in your seat. If you try to corner that hard, the car will most likely just carry on in a straight line. You've got to corner at a speed where you're not generating much force and you can't feel it. If there was something dangling from the interior mirror, that shouldn't be rocking from side to side much as you go around the corner. Corner gently at low speeds and hopefully you'll make it round. Make sure you drive within your predictable grip. Predictable grip is a term that I've come up with to describe and help myself explain to people how much grip they should expect to have. So, what your predictable grip is, it's the minimum grip you can expect to have on a road. If part of the road only has this much grip, but another part of the road has this much grip, drive to the lower level of grip so you're prepared for when you have less grip. Because one road in many places can have varying levels of grip because ice does not form evenly across the road. I believe many crashes are caused by a lack of understanding of predictable grip. I know someone who crashed 3 times on one snowy day. Minor crashes, that's why he could carry on, but 3 times in one day. And I believe it's because the roads he was driving on had varying levels of grip. Sometimes he had this much grip, other times he had that much grip. He decided to drive always like he had this much grip. When he got to a bit of road with only that much grip and he needed to corner or slow down, well, he couldn't. However, don't think, I've got a 4-wheel drive, I'm going to blitz through this ice, because if you've got a 4-wheel drive, yes, you will be able to accelerate better than a 2-wheel drive car, but you're not going to be able to corner any better and you're not going to be able to slow any better. Winter tyres are actually the better option if you're trying to gain more grip. In fact, time and time again, it's been proven that a 2-wheel drive car on winter tyres will easily out-accelerate a 4-wheel drive car on summer tyres. Of course, the best option would be to have 4-wheel drive with winter tyres, but that's not the point I'm making here. If you're struggling to move away because it feels like there's snow in front of the tyres, your tyres keep spinning on the road and you can't get over whatever it is in front of you. Let's say there's a mound of snow in front of the front tyres. What you can do is you can rock the car. So basically how rocking works is you lift the clutch of the bike point, that pushes your tyres into the mound of snow, clutch down, the car rolls back a little bit, lift the clutch of the bike point again. This time you're taking a bigger run up at it. As you go into it, maybe you go over on the second time, maybe not. If not, clutch down, you roll back slightly more. And on the 3rd or the 4th time when you lift the clutch up, eventually you'll build up enough momentum to get over the mound of snow. So it sort of starts like this, like that, until eventually you go over. I'm going to show you that now. So I've deliberately put some snow in front of my tyres here because the snow's just not bad enough for me to get stuck at the moment. So hopefully this will work. So I'm going to try and set off. A little bit of gas, a little bit of bite point and nothing. Let it roll back and again And you see I'm just rocking, and eventually, hopefully, I'll build up enough momentum, there we go, to get over. Another method you can use in a front wheel drive car, particularly a front engined front wheel drive car, is to turn the front wheel from left to right as you try to get going. I don't find this works as well as rocking, but let's give it a go. Try to wheel spin as little as possible. And as I turn the wheels, eventually I get through. I'll normally use the left to right turning of the steering wheel method in an automatic car because you don't have a clutch in an automatic, which means you can't rock the car. And that's the problem with automatics in these conditions. Automatics tend to put too much power to the wheels too quickly, meaning you just spin the wheels, making it even harder to get going. With a clutch, however, you can put teeny tiny amounts of power to the wheels, which means you're more likely to actually get going instead of just wheel spinning. And that moves me on to how you can get a car moving on ice. The idea is to use the smallest amount of power possible. You don't want to spin the wheels, so less gas means you're going to have less power, but also lower clutch means you're going to have less power too. If you're in a car such as this one that doesn't need you to press the gas to get moving because the car's computer gives a little bit of gas for you, that can be a good option because then you're only thinking about the clutch and just using a tiny bit of bite point to get the wheel spinning. The slower you can rotate those wheels, the less chance there is of you wheel spinning and the more chance there is of you getting up a hill as well. So, clutch down first gear, I'm going to take the handbrake off, no gas, and what I'll do when no one's coming, lift the clutch to the bite point just a little bit, hold it there and wait. And then the wheels start turning, and by the time it gets to around about 4 or 5 miles an hour, I can come fully off the clutch, no wheel spinning there, got going, no problem. Once you start wheel spinning, your life has just got harder. Some people recommend moving away in second gear when it's slippery. I understand why they recommend it because second gear provides less torque, meaning you're less likely to wheel spin. But I don't like that method because you can provide yourself with less torque using first gear just by not lifting the clutch as high. And there's a major disadvantage of using second gear. The minimum speed that the car can handle in second gear is significantly higher than first gear. In most cars, you only need to get to around about 4 or 5 miles an hour before you can come off the clutch completely without wheel spinning. Whereas in second gear, you'd have to hold the clutch on the bite point to as much as 10 miles an hour in some cars. That's a long time on the bite point. If you come off the clutch too early in second gear, it's either going to stall or your wheels are going to spin up to 10 miles an hour straight away. I know in this car, the minimum speed of second is actually 7 miles an hour, so I'll only have to hold the clutch until 7 miles an hour. I'm going to try that though. I'm going to try and move away in second gear without gas. You can do it with gas. That provides a little bit more power, a little bit more torque. The idea is to have the smallest amount of torque possible. And I know this car will handle it without gas. So I'm going to let the computer do its job. No one's coming. Lift the clutch to the bite point. There it is. A little bit of torque going to the wheels. It's starting to speed up. And yes, I can feel there's less torque in second gear. So in some ways it's easier to avoid wheel spin, but I'm holding the clutch now. Normally in this car it's 4 miles an hour and come off the clutch. I'll be off the clutch by now, but I can't. I've got to hold the clutch longer, If I come off now, just spin. There you go, 7 miles an hour. Now I can come fully off the clutch because the engine has finally, well, the wheel speed has finally matched the engine speed in that gear. However, trying to move away in second gear is no substitute for just having good clutch control and being able to regulate exactly how much power goes to your wheels. As you know, braking in these conditions takes a lot longer. So if I try and brake now, I'm just skidding, and that took absolutely ages. If you find you are skidding, then you want to actually reduce the braking because when you skid, you lose your steering. In this car, it has ABS. So although I was skidding, the ABS was taking care of it and making sure I maintained my steering. But, and this is a big but, ABS doesn't always work in icy conditions because if you lock all 4 wheels, which is quite likely to happen in icy conditions, the car will think you're stationary. It has no idea you're moving if all 4 wheels are completely stopped. Therefore, ABS isn't going to start working. So if that happens and you really are skidding, reduce the braking a little bit. Although this car's ABS system is very good, and even if I really try and fall it, it knows that I'm on ice and I can't fall this one. But I have been able to fall others where it just locks all four wheels and it's as if you haven't got ABS. So if you start skidding in a straight line, reduce your braking. That should enable the wheels to start turning, give you your steering back. It might not necessarily make you stop any quicker, but it gives you your control. You also need to know how to control understeer and oversteer. And I'm going to try and explain that now using a piece of paper. So I'm going to hand you over to me with a piece of paper and a pen. Understeer is when the car carries on in a straight line when you try to make it go around a bend. The reason why this happens is because there's not enough grip for your tyres to get you around that bend. Most people instinctively steer even more when they understeer, but that doesn't help because there wasn't enough grip for your tyres to get round the bend in the first place. So if you ask your tyres to do even more work by steering even more, there's definitely not going to be enough grip to get you around that sharper line. What you actually have to do is steer less and hope there's enough space to take a wider line. If there isn't, you're going to go off the road. The best thing to do in this situation is to steer less and slow down. Hopefully, as you slow down, your tyres will find it easier to get you around the bend and you'll make it before you leave the road. Oversteer is when the car tries to rotate as you go around the bend. As you can see here, instead of just going around the bend happily, this car is starting to do this. This is caused by, again, going too fast. It's more likely to happen in a rear-engined car or a rear mid-engined car, and it's more likely to happen if you're harsh with the steering, if you chuck the car into the bend or if you let off the gas suddenly as you steer and all the weight comes off the back of the car and onto the front of the car. That puts it into a spin. The way to correct this is to steer in the direction you want to go. It's known as opposite lock. You steer the opposite way to where the car is trying to go. So you can see here the wheels are actually pointing more this way to try and correct the car and get you going in the direction you want to go. Once you've got the steering like this, hold it and eventually the car will come back round. If you keep steering more and more and more to the left here, that's only going to make you snap back really fast and you end up going off the road anyway. So steer to left until you feel like you've got the wheels pointing in the direction you want to go. The slide should hold when you're like that. It shouldn't rotate anymore. It will hold steady and eventually it will come back round in the direction you want to go. When it comes back though, it normally comes back pretty quick. So be ready to straighten the wheels or you will just end up going off the road. When driving on ice, try to stay in the tracks of other cars like I am now, because you'll find there's a lot more grip there as the ice has already been hopefully smushed away into slush and mixed with the salt. Here it doesn't really make much difference actually if I'm driving on the tracks or not, because these roads haven't been salted, and the salt works a lot better when the tyres smush it, if I could think of a better word, mix it together with the ice to make it melt. However, when you put salt on fresh snow, or should I say actually when salt is under fresh snow, it doesn't really do much. As you can see now, I'm coming up to a salted bit of road and you can see the difference in colour. It's actually gone from white ice to this mushy slushy substance, and it really isn't too bad here. You can see where it's been salted because suddenly the road, well, it's just like a wet day. But you can get slush on the sides and you can get ice on the sides where cars haven't been driving. Try to avoid those. If you do need to drive in those, slow down before you go on them. Don't go on them and then slow down because you won't have any grip to slow down. Slow down as much as you need to, and then if you have to, move over onto the ice. When driving in these conditions, try to stick to main roads, because as you can see here, the main roads are actually not too bad at all. Again, there is ice and slush on the side, but really isn't that bad here. Although these roads really aren't that bad at the moment, they can be bad in the morning because not many cars drive at night and the snow has a better chance of covering the road, and there's no tyres to mix up the salt and the snow to make it melt. But a point I want to make is is when you are driving on these main roads and they are covered in the white stuff, be very careful because you can't see the road markings. And you're really going to have to rely more on signs, and hopefully it's somewhere you know and local knowledge to know where the mini roundabouts are, where the give way lines are. Use the shapes of the road as well to tell if you're coming to the end of the road and to judge the junctions. Zebra crossings have those yellow flashing beacons, so you can see them that way. And mini roundabouts have the blue sign with the arrows going around it. You won't see a mini roundabout very easily when the roads are covered in snow. When going down a snowy hill, make sure you keep your speed low because gravity is not helping you. And if you've got a very small amount of grip and you're going at speed, nothing is on your side to get you stopped. So if you're very slow and you have less momentum, that's going to help you stop when you need to, like I do here. And it's just gone from slush to ice right near the end of the road where you need to be stopping. So I'm very glad I was already slow before I got to this bit, because white generally means it's probably icy and brown generally means it's slushy. Brown is a much nicer thing to see on the road when it's icy than white. White is bad news, brown is good news. Like, this is quite brown, it's white in the middle, so I know I'm probably going to have a fair amount of traction up this hill. And yes, oh no, it is wheel spinning a little bit because it's just gone a bit more white, hasn't it? And that is where you lose your grip. If I put my foot on the gas now, yep, just wheel spins, traction control's kicking in. So I can't actually accelerate much quicker than about, I don't know, 2 miles an hour a second up that hill, if that, without it starting to wheel spin. So that gives you an idea of how quickly you're going to be able to slow down. Not very quick at all. And what I was trying to say there is if I can't accelerate by 1 to 2 miles an hour a second up that hill once I got onto the white stuff, I'm not going to be able to slow down by 1 to 2 miles an hour a second as I go downhill. The amount I can accelerate is going to be comparative to the amount I can slow down, albeit you can slow down a bit quicker because it's all 4 wheels working to help you slow down. But if you want to be extra safe, think of it like the same. If it takes you 10 seconds to get to, say, 15 miles an hour, leave 10 seconds to get you back down to 0 miles an hour. There is a saying some driving instructors have, and that is more white equals more S word. But instead of ending the S word with it, you end it with ite, because it kind of rhymes, doesn't it? But they're not referring to snow necessarily, they're actually normally referring to road markings. The more road markings there are, the more things there are for you to deal with, and road markings are white. But in the snow, when there's a lot of white on the road, more white definitely equals more. What do we have here then? Well, it looks like the steepest gradient in Colchester I know, and it's covered in white snow. I wonder if I can drive up there, stop, and then start again without wheel spinning or rolling back. And let's see if I can do that. The key is going to be very low amounts of clutch bite point. I'm going to keep the clutch very low so I don't wheel spin, and I'm not going to use any gas. If I get into trouble, I may have to reverse and go back. I'm not actually sure if I'm going to make it up there because it does look icy, and well, yes, it is very steep. With a run up, I'm sure I could do it, but I'm going to try and stop and get going again. And to make it even harder, I'm going to try and stop on the left here where tyres haven't been, where it is even more icy. I'm probably going to regret this decision. All right. Okay, so I am now stopping. It's not sliding down the hill under the brakes. Now that's a good start, because I was a little bit worried of that happening, that the car wouldn't be able to stay still. I mean, the other cars in here are, but they were probably parked here before it snowed, so their tyres are actually in contact with the road, not the ice. I'm putting the handbrake on and coming off the foot brakes. Now it's just the rear wheels holding me, and yes, just the rear wheels are strong enough to hold me, so that's a good sign as well. So what I'm going to do is get a little bit of bite point. The ECU will give me a little bit of gas, as you can see, just about that much. It's very steep, I may even need a little bit of gas here. Handbrake off slowly, and yes, I'm starting to move. I'm going to steer to the right a little bit, but not much, because when you turn to the right, it's going to make the tyres work even harder. And I'm just starting to get going. Oh yes, holding that clutch right at the bottom of the bite point. It's struggling, maybe a little bit of gas, but I'm afraid it might just start wheel spinning. I'm starting to move. Oh, it's wheel spinning now. It's wheel spinning. Oh, stop. Okay. Let's try straightening my wheels completely. I'm going to roll back a little bit so I'm not on the part where I was just wheel spinning, because that's all polished. And if it's polished, I'm in trouble because it's not going to let me go. So let's just roll down this hill a little bit like that. Just move over here a little bit as well so I'm not on the same tracks. Handbrake up first gear. Let's try this again. A little bit of bite point. I'm not giving any gas yet, I'm ready to. Computer's giving me gas. Handbrake off slowly. And let's try and go. A little bit of bite point, a little bit, oh no, wheel spinning, and I'm sliding back. I don't think it's going to go up this hill there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to reverse. Now if I was parked here, this is what I'll do. I'll reverse down the hill, but I'm reversing out to the right, to the other side of the road where there are some tyre tracks and hopefully less ice. Hopefully the tyres have got through to the black tarmac underneath the ice. You can see they're different colour, aren't they? They're more black, so hopefully that is less ice. Oh, that felt very slippery. I'm going to go back further than that. I've got the steering feels like there's no weight to it at all. And again, let's try a little bit less steep here. You can see where I was skidding over there, the tyre marks. Bit of gas and bite point, holding the clutch steady, patience, let it accelerate really slowly. The car just drifted to the right there as the front lost grip. Holding the clutch steady, my leg is starting to really ache now, and I'm wheel spinning. No. I've been defeated. So, next thing to do is to go back to the bottom of the hill, get a little bit of momentum, and try and make it up this with some momentum. See if that works. That's something else you can try. You see where I've just polished the ice there? That looks like shiny ice. A little bit nervous about this, you know, because, well, I'm not that nervous actually. I know the car does seem to hold. It doesn't roll back with the brakes on. I have actually seen a car with its brakes fully on and it still just went down the hill, slid down the hill, and it nearly hit me. So that was quite scary. So let's get a bit of momentum. There we go. Let's see if 10 miles an hour is enough momentum. Staying in first, not going to change gear. Keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. Slowing down a little bit, 10 miles an hour. 11 still, I can get going. Do not stop, keep moving. So there we go. So if I was parked there, I could have got out. I'd have to reverse down the hill, get a bit of a run up, and hope that I didn't need to stop. But now I've got the end of the road. I've got a T-junction here on ice. So I'm going to try not to stop. I'm going to try and keep moving. Looking. Come on. Don't have to stop. Thankfully, I didn't have to stop there, because if I had to stop there, I don't think I would have got going again, and I would have had to roll back again. However, if I rolled back just a little bit there, it would have been less steep, because a T-junction is on a more steep part of the hill. It gets a lot steeper there just at the end. And again, we have a downhill here, and this downhill is worse than the uphill I just did, because there's actually the end of the road there. So I have to make sure I can definitely stop by the end of that road down this hill. And this does get really bad, this bit. I know it from experience. It's really icy. So I'm going only 4 miles an hour. Therefore, I haven't got many miles an hour to slow down when I stop. Steering as little as possible will give you more acceleration and will give you more braking on ice, but it's not always an option, because sometimes, well, you need to turn. But if you can keep things straight on the ice and steer after or before the ice, that can also help. Now on that hill, I did all I could. I managed to get the car actually moving. So I know it wasn't clutch control that was the problem, because I managed to get it moving. But once I got to the bit of the road that was more slippery, the car could not pull itself up that road with these tyres, and it lost its speed. I only managed to gain like 1 mile an hour, if that, and then it just went to zero again. Whereas when I had 11 miles an hour, when I was going on the slippery part of the hill, it did lose a little bit of speed still, because the engine couldn't, or the tyres couldn't pull me up the hill, but it didn't go to zero. It was still at 10, so I was still moving forward, got through it, and got to the top. However, I wouldn't like to hit it very fast, say at like 25, 30 miles an hour, because you still want to try and control the car, and it is ice, and I don't want to skid off into someone's parked car or into someone walking at the side of the road. Downhill is where you really have to be careful, because when you're downhill, gravity is against you when it comes to stopping. And I would much rather be in a position where I can't go, but I can stop. That's uphill. Downhill can be the other way around. Downhill can be you can go, but you can't stop. That's why downhill is more dangerous and you want to be even more careful. So I'm driving downhill again, very dangerous here. This is just basically ice and it curves to the right. So I've got to make sure I can steer without going forwards into this curb on the left, but I've also got to be able to stop by the end of the road. It does look like it gets a little bit better at the end of the road where the ice has just receded, but I'm only doing 9 miles now. I'm trying to slow it down now. Clutch is down so I don't stall. There you go. Not braking by much at all. Braking by, I don't know, a mile an hour a second. Definitely going to be able to stop by the end of the road. Luckily it's front wheel drive, so my front wheels are on the grippier part of this road, which is absolutely fine, this bit of the road, because it's been salted. Tyres are driven over it, and there you go. I can accelerate quite quickly there, up to 30, no problem. What a difference it is between that road back there and this road here in the space of a couple of meters. Obviously, I won't treat all roads like they have the same predictable level of grip. For example, this road's absolutely fine. It's just basically wet now, whereas the road I was on a matter of a minute ago was completely sheet ice. So I'm going to treat them very differently. And if I'm going downhill, I'm going to be a lot more cautious than if I'm going uphill. But it's just important to bear in mind that roads can have ice patches, and if you feel there's ice patches in places, be ready for them. Drive round those corners at a speed where you're expecting to meet ice round each corner. Something I forgot to mention was if you get stuck, you can actually just try to shovel away the snow. If you're stuck because there's snow drifted up on your tyres, you can just use a shovel to try and remove that snow, or even use your foot to get rid of it. And also, when I try to get up that really steep hill and I put my tyres on the wheel tracks from where other cars have been, I was hoping that the other cars had worn away the snow and there was tarmac there. But in hindsight, what I think actually happened, and this can happen as well, that not many cars had gone up there and the snow had just been compacted into ice. So I was actually maybe better off staying on the snow where I'd have more grip than compacted snow, which then obviously turns to ice. It's still -1 out there, so everything is staying frozen. Nothing's melting unless salt has mixed with it. Salt, I believe, lowers the freezing point of water to about -15, so you shouldn't get ice until you're down to about -15. Depends on how much salt there is, the concentration of it. Like in all aspects of driving, you're going to have people who push you. Only drive as fast as you feel comfortable with. If someone's close behind you trying to make you go faster, but you don't want to go faster, don't go faster. They can go past when they want to, or they can stay behind. They can deal with the consequences of going quicker. If you don't feel comfortable, don't worry about it. There's always going to be someone who's faster than you on the road who wants to push you. A great driver never gets pushed around. Well, I've well and truly run out of light. I've been out all day today filming these 2 videos for driving on snow and ice. Might not get another opportunity for a couple more years. If you think the video helps, please give it a thumbs up. And as usual, check out Collingwood and Confused in the description. Collingwood are great if you're learning to drive and want to insure yourself on a friend or family member's car, because you can do so without risking the owner's policy or their no claims bonus. So they can teach you in their car without feeling stressed that you're going to cost them a load of money. Via the link at the moment, there's up to 35% off and a £20 gift card too. There's short-term policies available and long-term policies available. If you choose a long-term policy and cancel it early, don't worry, if you cancel it early, you will get a pro rata refund for what you haven't used. If you want to insure your own car, I recommend confused.com, because Confused can compare many insurers. You fill out one quote form, you get many quotes back from many insurers to see who's the cheapest. And you only have to fill out one quote form. You can even change parts of that quote form, like your excess or the car, to see what makes the policy cheaper, and then click requote and you get loads of new quotes back from many insurers again. Via the link, that does support this channel, so if you do use that link, thank you very much for your support. If you want to get my future videos, please subscribe, and until the next one, cheerio.